David Notoane has named his squad for the upcoming Under-23 Olympic qualifiers, the Olympic Games qualifiers that is happening this month. The coach has assembled a 29-member preliminary squad to face Congo in two back-to-back qualifiers. South Africa facing the Congolese first at Dobsonville Stadium on Thursday, the 23rd of March, and then they'll be traveling to Brazzaville for the second leg at Massamba-Debat Stadium 4 days later. The coach joins me now in studio to look ahead to the Crunch Games. Coach, a very good morning to you. So you've put out the squad. It's got one or two players that we know of and have seen in the DStv Premiership. For example, it's got an Ethan Brooks, who's played for the senior team, Bafana Bafana. Your thinking behind these players that you've called up and what it is you want them to do?
Yeah, first, good morning, Morena, to the viewers at home, to yourself, and condolences to Richards Bay and the Mtolo family on the passing of their stalwart player. Yeah, coming to the business of today, of course, we assembled a preliminary squad that is based on experience, the players that you've mentioned. Some of them, though, they are not getting as much regular game time, as you'd like. Of course, even comes from a little bit of a minor injury that has been carrying over the last few weeks, few months. But then, of course, we're also looking at continuity in terms of where we left off from the qualifier against Togo. And then, of course, there are players that are performing very, very well that we couldn't get into the squad. Your Masekos, So we've been able to now pull them together. And I think we'll have a very, very strong competitive team to help us achieve the objective of going to AFCON and, of course, to Paris next year.
The goal is to qualify for events. Yes. The goal is to qualify for tournaments. But then there's also another goal, that is to essentially build up to... You're essentially responsible for creating the national team before they get to the national team. What exactly do you focus on? Because you don't have the under-23 squad that often.
Yeah.
If you are lucky, you can have the under-23 squad maybe twice in a year for competitive football. So when you do have them, Coach, what do you focus on?
Yeah, look, most of these players, if you really look at their age category, and compared to the other nations, they are already in senior competition football, having amassed about 50 caps plus from the junior national teams. Our situation is a little bit different. So the under-23, really what we're looking for is these players that are on the verge of, kicking into Bafana Bafana full-time, but perhaps because of certain dynamics that I play at the time, the pressures of the games, the performance of the experienced players, your Zwanes, wouldn't necessarily give a Brooks an opportunity to be blooded into Bafana and given the necessary platform to be able to showcase his talent at that level, So it's actually a bridging program, as you could call it, an early childhood program if we had crashed towards Bafana. But this one is actually, of course, at the highest competition level. So talent, mentality comes in, understanding of tactics, can you fitting into the style of play that South Africans are looking for. And of course then is to give them that competitive experience in terms of international football demands. And the Olympics is massive. AFCON is highly demanding. The last time when we went to Tokyo, out of the Egyptian team, for example, they had about 8 players who were in Ahly. Young ones, playing regular at the Champions League level, But if we flip the coin coming back home, you don't get that sort of experience for our players. So the Under-23 offers that opportunity for us to be able to give them that platform to say to the senior coach, we can do it and we are ready.
Is it maybe then not an opportunity, Coach, to blood into the Under-23 teenagers, under-20s? I mean, we've got different age groups, the senior team, you've got under-23, you've got under-20, you've got under-17. Would it not be an opportunity for you, at least, to then maybe look at them a little younger? And I know the question will sound as though I'm asking that you must leave out or don't give an opportunity to the guys that are cracking it into the national team but don't crack it really, because you would essentially be icing out a whole group of players.
Yeah.
But then there's the 17 and 20-year-olds who I think some of them will only but end up at under-17 or under-20. Isn't it an opportunity for you to then blood them in as early as you possibly can?
No, definitely. You are spot on there. That's exactly what we're trying to work towards, The under-20s, for example, that went to Kasafa, lost in the final. So we've brought in, your Samkelo Zwanes from Kaizer Chiefs, for example, We brought in McCarthy, Aiden, coming straight out of the tournament. Ndandonkosi, at Sundowns, just to mention but a few. And of course, then you've got other younger, emerging talents abroad. Ayanda Sishuba, who's at Racing Club Lance, breaking into the first team. So we're also playing in that space with a new scouting department that's coming out of SAFA. And it's exactly that, to ensure that these young, talented players get the exposure at under 17. From then on, if we can fast-track them into the under-20, under-23 program, even better, because that's where the world is. Your Gavis, your Pedris, at 17, they are fully fledged international players for their senior team. So we're trying to bridge that gap, definitely.
There's a conversation, somewhat of a conversation you and I were having off air in the makeup room before we came in here, where you said, today is a yellow day. You're dressed in yellow. It's the national team colors. But I know what you meant by that. In case you guys don't know, Coach David Notoane is also the development head coach at Mamelodi Sundowns. And today there is a continental rivalry happening in Pretoria. That is Mamelodi Sundowns facing Ahly in the CAF Champions League group stages. Coach, I know obviously you have your Mamelodi Sundowns hat on, but as a head coach, going into this game, what needs to happen?
Yeah, look, first, of course, continental football for any club has also, the national agenda perspective to it, because the more our team's Marumo Gallants is doing very, very well, it gives the players exposure and gives us also as national coaches an opportunity to be convinced that indeed this guy can step up to the demands of continental football. So today's encounter, as you're saying, of course, is massive for Mamelodi Sundowns. A win, very, very important against a big giant, which is Ahly. To sort of kill off the group and make sure that they cement their position, as a team that is already through to the next phase, which is a knockout phase. So it's a massive game indeed. And I think South Africans should rally behind Sundowns, and we should rally behind the Marumo Gallants as well, because they are doing very, very well at the moment in the Confed Cup, of course.
I would assume for the players, the coaching staff, there's the concern of Percy Tau. He's South African. He understands the Mamelodi Sundowns dressing room, the Mamelodi Sundowns culture, but he's not at Mamelodi Sundowns. And that's maybe what makes him a little more dangerous, is that you now don't actually know where his mentality is, where his thinking is at. He's now playing at a different level. I'm not going to say it's higher, because Sundowns is playing at a higher level as well than every other team in the DStv Premiership. Who then does Sundowns worry about? Yes, there's 11 players, but there'll always be one or two. Do you focus on Percy? Do you look at Percy? Or do you put Percy aside to say, that's maybe who they're hoping we can focus on?
Yeah, look, at Mamelodi Sundowns, analysis is very, very massive. It's big, and details have become very, very important in terms of preparation for each match. So in a tie like this, you also know the strengths and weaknesses of every team that you face. The key players, Percy is one of them indeed. Very unpredictable player, matured player, very talented, very explosive and quick. You saw, his action in Egypt to win the penalty. Also very clever and matured now, having been exposed to your Club World Cups through Ahly. But then also you have on their wing backs there, Malul on the left side, very dangerous in bringing balls into the box. You have El Shahad as well on the opposite side. On the right side, also very, very important in bringing balls into the box. And then you have your Dieng, who's a colossal player in that midfield to win second balls for them and dominate the midfield. But I think we have equally talented and capable players, very creative players. We are a team that prides itself on possession. And that's the South African way of playing, dominate the ball. Because the more you dominate the ball, then you take a lot of these other permutations from the opponents away, and then you are able then to dominate the game and manifest your ideas and strategies. And I think we have a team strong enough and capable to come out with a result today and make South Africa proud, of course.
And hopefully they will do that. Coach, before ke holokolla, I want to ask you this. Recently, Dr. Patrice Motsepe confirmed his investment of about 150 million rands in school sport, essentially in the development of sport in this country. Just your thoughts on it, the continued investment from the Motsepe family, the Motsepe Foundation, into South African sport, and not just football, because his investment in Sundowns is proving that they are far better than every other team in the PSL. His investment now in African football as the president of CAF is proving that we are moving in a different direction. We are getting to watch, again, the Champions League on our TVs before we, Just your thoughts on just the Mothupi's investment in our school sport and where you hope that investment will go.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think first we should say congratulations, and we show gratitude as South Africans for what the Mothupi family is doing, you know, for football generally. And as you're saying, you can see Africa is taking a different direction now, you know, which is, again, compliments to the leadership of Dr. Patrice Mothupi. And coming to the investment into the schools, I think it's more talking to investment in youth, really, you know. And it's very, very important because we know the status of our schools, number one. And for me, it's an investment towards competition.
Yeah.
But the key thing that one would hope for is that there's that partnership between government, you know, education through schools, in terms of development of infrastructure in the schools. Because if you go back to the you know, on the grassy, dusty. No, we need to change that narrative and make sure that the investment into competition is also, you know, parallel by the investment into development of infrastructure through partnerships with the government. And with the new Minister of Sport coming in, we can hope that, you know, this joint partnership will come in and produce talented players who will be able to, you know, get Bafana to the successes that we all aspiring for and craving for, by the way.
Of course.
For Bafana at the World Cup, you know, it's been a long time now. I think South Africans deserve that in the long run.
It's been 2 decades.
It's been 2 decades, yes.
2 decades.
Yes. So but God willing, before me and you depart this world, we'll see Bafana at the World Cup with a medal, hopefully.
Definitely. Coach, all the best with what it is you're going to be doing in South Africa and in Congo this month. Gratefully appreciate your coming into studio just to talk to us about all of this. Of course, that is the head coach of the under-23 national team, is also involved in the Mamelodi Sundowns development. His name is Coach David Notoane. Faith is back again in a couple of minutes, seconds, in fact, to bring you the latest headlines. From the sports desk, we'll chat to you in the next hour.